Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to take a moment and remember the last time you did something, no matter how small, and felt a quiet flicker of pride. That little spark, that whisper of, I did it, is more powerful than we often give it credit for. It may have been getting out of bed on a difficult day, finishing a task you thought you couldn't, or simply choosing hope when the world seemed heavy. These moments, these small victories, are not insignificant. They are the bricks that build the foundation of our dreams. They are the whispers of our potential, reminding us that growth is not always loud or grand. Sometimes it is gentle, patient, and quietly magnificent. Today, we gather to honor those small triumphs, to see them not as fleeting sparks, but as the fuel that lights the path to who we are meant to become. Every small victory is a seed of greatness. It does not arrive with thunder or applause. It does not demand a spotlight or a stage. It slips quietly into your day and asks only to be noticed. When you choose discipline over distraction, when you speak kindly to yourself instead of surrendering to doubt, when you try again after failing, that is a seed being planted. And though it may look small in the palm of your hand, within it lives the promise of something vast and magnificent. We are often taught to wait for the grand achievement before we allow ourselves to feel proud. We postpone our joy until the promotion comes, until the weight is lost, until the dream is fully realized. But growth does not happen in a single triumphant moment. It happens in inches. It happens in quiet decisions repeated day after day. When you recognize those inches, when you celebrate them instead of dismissing them, you water the soil of your own becoming. You tell yourself, I see you trying, I see you rising. And that acknowledgement builds confidence like roots, pushing deeper into the earth. Confidence is not born from perfection, it is born from evidence. Each small victory becomes proof that you are capable, proof that you can endure, proof that you can begin again. When you keep that proof close to your heart, courage follows. You start to take larger steps because you remember the smaller ones that carried you this far. You begin to trust yourself, not because the road is easy, but because you have walked difficult roads before and survived them. There will be days when the progress feels invisible, days when the effort seems unnoticed by the world. On those days, it is even more important to honor your small wins. Did you choose patience when anger would have been easier? Did you continue when quitting whispered your name? Did you believe, even for a second, that you are worthy of more? These are not minor things. These are miracles in motion. They are the quiet revolutions that change a life from the inside out. When you celebrate small victories, you shift your focus from what is lacking to what is growing. Gratitude begins to bloom. Instead of measuring yourself against distant mountains, you begin to cherish the ground beneath your feet. And in that gratitude, you find strength. You find momentum. You find a steady rhythm that carries you forward without the need for constant validation from others. So do not overlook the small. Do not despise the ordinary. The towering oak was once a seed that dared to push through dark soil. Your greatness, too, is unfolding in ways that may seem humble today, but will be undeniable tomorrow. Celebrate the step. Celebrate the effort. Celebrate the courage it took to begin. For in those small victories, you are not just achieving, you are becoming. Progress, not perfection, is the rhythm of a life well lived. Perfection is a harsh master. It demands flawlessness before it grants approval. It tells you that unless every step is polished and every outcome certain, you are not enough. But progress speaks gently. It says, come as you are, move as you can, just keep going. Growth does not require you to be flawless. It requires you to be faithful to your effort, to your learning, to your willingness to rise again. So often, we delay our celebration because the picture is not complete. We focus on the single mistake instead of the many improvements. We see the distance left to travel instead of the miles already walked. But progress is not measured by the absence of error. It is measured by the presence of courage. If you are trying, you are progressing. If you are learning, you are progressing. If you are refusing to surrender to yesterday's version of yourself, you are progressing. Each step forward, no matter how small, carries significance. The first attempt after failure is progress. The decision to practice when no one is watching is progress. The choice to forgive yourself and try again is progress. These steps may not draw applause from the crowd, but they reshape your character in powerful ways. They strengthen patience, they deepen wisdom, they teach resilience. And those qualities, quietly formed, are far more valuable than any illusion of perfection. Perfection freezes us. It makes us afraid to begin because we fear we cannot finish flawlessly. It makes us hesitant to share because we fear we will be judged. But progress frees us. It allows room for mistakes and room for growth. It understands that mastery is born from repetition, from adjustment, from showing up again and again. When you embrace progress, you give yourself permission to evolve. Consider how a child learns to walk. There are stumbles, falls, and tears, yet no one demands perfection from that child. Every shaky step is celebrated. Every attempt is encouragement. Why then do we deny ourselves that same grace? Why do we withhold celebration until we have reached some distant ideal? If we honored our own journey the way we honor a child's first steps, we would discover that we are moving forward far more than we thought. Progress builds momentum. When you acknowledge even a small improvement, you create motivation to continue. You begin to see that change is possible. You begin to believe that your efforts matter, and belief is powerful. It carries you through moments of doubt and whispers hope into your hardest days. Let go of the need to be perfect. Embrace the beauty of becoming. Celebrate the imperfect, courageous, persistent steps you take each day. For it is not perfection that transforms a life, it is steady, intentional progress, and every step you take, no matter how small, is worthy of recognition. Acknowledging effort builds resilience. There is something sacred about pausing long enough to say, I tried, not I won, not I mastered it, but simply, I gave my strength to this moment. Effort is the quiet labor of the soul. It is waking up when you are weary. It is showing up when doubt clings to your shoulders. It is choosing to continue when results have not yet arrived. And when you honor that effort, you strengthen something within you that no storm can easily shake. Resilience is not formed in comfort. It is shaped in persistence. Every time you recognize the work you have put in, even if the outcome is still unfolding, you build trust in yourself. You begin to understand that your value is not tied only to victories, but to your willingness to engage fully with life. When you say, I am proud of the work I did, you anchor your confidence in something deeper than applause. You anchor it in character. There will be seasons when your efforts feel unnoticed. The world may not see the late nights, the silent prayers, the discipline it took to resist giving up. But resilience does not require an audience. It requires acknowledgement. When you honor your own persistence, you become your own witness. You affirm that what you are building matters, even if it is still invisible. That affirmation becomes armor. It protects you from discouragement and shields you from the temptation to measure your worth by comparison. Effort teaches you lessons that ease never could. It teaches patience when results are slow. It teaches humility when you stumble. It teaches creativity when you must try a different path. And with each lesson, you grow stronger, not louder, not prouder, but steadier. Like a tree bending in the wind, you learn how to sway without breaking. That flexibility, that quiet endurance, is resilience taking root. When you celebrate small successes along the way, you remind yourself that progress is happening. Perhaps you spoke up once when you used to remain silent. Perhaps you practiced a skill for one more hour than yesterday. Perhaps you chose discipline over comfort. These are not minor things. They are evidence of growth. They are proof that you are stretching beyond your old limitations. And every piece of proof makes the next challenge feel less intimidating. Resilience is built one acknowledgement at a time. It grows each time you refuse to dismiss your own hard work. It deepens each time you choose encouragement over criticism when you speak to yourself. In honoring your effort, you declare that your journey matters, even in its unfinished state. You give yourself permission to be in process, and in that permission, strength multiplies. You rise not because the road is smooth, but because you have learned to value the courage it takes to walk it. You continue not because you are certain of the outcome, but because you trust the power of your own perseverance. When you acknowledge your effort, you are not merely surviving the struggle, you are becoming unshakable within it. Joy in small wins sparks momentum. There is a certain light that enters the spirit when you allow yourself to feel glad about what you have done. It is not loud or boastful, it is warm, steady, and alive. When you pause to celebrate a small achievement, you are not distracting yourself from the larger goal, you are fueling the journey toward it. Joy becomes energy, it becomes motion, it becomes the quiet wind at your back urging you forward. Too often, we rush past our victories as though they are checkpoints with no meaning. We check the box and immediately lift our eyes to the next mountain. But when you deny yourself joy, you drain your own strength. Celebration is not indulgence, it is renewal. It reminds you that the work you are doing is worthwhile. It tells your weary heart, see, you are moving. See, you are capable. That recognition creates momentum that no external reward can replace. Think of how a single spark can set a flame aglow. A small win, finishing a task, keeping a promise to yourself, improving by even 1%, can ignite belief, and belief is powerful. When you believe your efforts matter, you approach the next challenge with a different posture. Your shoulders lift, your steps grow firmer, you no longer drag yourself forward, you carry yourself with purpose. That is the gift of joy. It transforms obligation into opportunity. Momentum is built in moments. It is built when you say, I did that, and allow yourself to smile. It is built when you share your progress with gratitude instead of minimizing it. It is built when you treat your growth as something worthy of acknowledgement. Each small celebration adds another layer of confidence, another breath of encouragement, and before long, what once felt impossible begins to feel attainable. There will always be another goal, another height to reach. But if you wait until you have conquered them all to feel joy, you will spend your life chasing satisfaction instead of living in it. Let joy meet you along the way. Let it rest in your daily progress. Let it dwell in the simple fact that you are trying, learning, and improving. That joy does not weaken your ambition, it strengthens it. When you honor your small wins, you create a cycle of positivity. Achievement leads to joy. Joy leads to motivation. Motivation leads to effort. Effort leads to new achievement. And so the wheel turns steadily and powerfully. You begin to move not from pressure, but from inspiration. Not from fear of failure, but from excitement about growth. Allow yourself to feel proud. Allow yourself to celebrate the inch as much as the mile. For in those moments of gladness, you gather the strength to continue. And with each joyful step, your momentum grows, carrying you further than doubt ever could. Gratitude transforms perspective. It has the quiet power to turn what feels ordinary into something extraordinary. When you begin to appreciate your minor achievements, you shift your gaze from what is missing to what is present. You stop measuring your life solely by distant dreams and begin honoring the steps that are already beneath your feet. In that shift, something remarkable happens. You realize that your journey is not empty space waiting to be filled, but rich ground already bearing fruit. It is easy to overlook the small triumphs. We are conditioned to chase the grand announcement, the visible success, the milestone that others applaud. Yet gratitude invites us to see differently. It whispers that finishing what you started matters, that choosing patience over impulse matters, that learning from a mistake instead of repeating it matters. These are not minor footnotes in your story. They are living proof that you are evolving. When you acknowledge them with a thankful heart, you begin to see abundance where you once saw lack. Gratitude softens comparison. It quiets the restless voice that says you are behind or not enough. When you focus on your own progress, however small, you reclaim your narrative. You begin to understand that growth is deeply personal. What may seem insignificant to another could represent courage, healing, or discipline for you. And when you honor that truth, you stand taller, not because you are superior, but because you are aware. There is strength in saying, I am thankful for how far I have come. Even if the distance feels short, it is yours. Gratitude allows you to see the lessons hidden in setbacks and the resilience hidden in effort. It teaches you that every experience, even the challenging ones, has shaped your capacity to endure and to rise. Instead of resenting the pace of your journey, you begin to respect it. When you cultivate gratitude for small victories, you nourish hope. You remind yourself that progress is happening, even if it is subtle. A thankful heart recognizes growth in discipline, in mindset, in character. It sees that the quiet decision to keep going is just as meaningful as crossing a finish line. And with that recognition comes peace, the kind that steadies you through uncertainty. Gratitude also deepens joy. It slows you down long enough to savor the moment. It allows you to breathe in accomplishment without rushing to the next demand. In that pause, you gather strength. You replenish your spirit. You prepare yourself for the road ahead, not with anxiety, but with assurance. When you choose gratitude, you transform your journey from a constant pursuit into a living testimony of growth. You see abundance in effort, beauty in persistence, and purpose in each small step. And in seeing clearly, you move forward not from scarcity, but from fullness. Celebrate yourself privately and publicly, for recognition, whether whispered in solitude or shared with the world, validates your journey. There is a quiet power in looking at your own reflection and saying, I am proud of you. No audience is required for that moment. No applause needs to follow. In the stillness of your own company, you can honor the battles fought in silence, the discipline practiced when no one was watching, the courage it took simply to continue. Private celebration nurtures self-respect. It builds an inner foundation that does not tremble when external praise is absent. In those private moments, you become both witness and reward. You remember the nights you wanted to give up but chose to endure. You remember the fears you faced, the habits you reshaped, the patience you practiced. When you acknowledge these things within yourself, you strengthen your inner voice. You teach it to speak kindly instead of critically. You allow pride to replace harsh judgment. And that internal shift changes how you move through the world. Yet there is also beauty in allowing your victories to be seen. Public celebration is not arrogance, it is affirmation. It gives others permission to honor their own progress. When you share your growth, you become a living testimony that persistence yields fruit. You remind someone else that small steps matter. Your courage to stand in your achievement, no matter how modest, becomes light for another traveler walking a similar road. For too long, many of us have been taught to shrink our accomplishments, to downplay our progress so as not to seem boastful. We say, it was nothing, when in truth, it was everything. We dismiss our effort as luck or timing, when it was discipline and determination that carried us through. But diminishing your victories does not make you humble. It makes you invisible to yourself, and you deserve to be seen by your own eyes and, when appropriate, by others. There is balance in celebration. It is not about shouting from rooftops at every small achievement, nor is it about hiding in quiet corners. It is about honoring truthfully what you have overcome and what you have accomplished. Sometimes that looks like writing your progress in a journal. Sometimes it looks like sharing your story with gratitude. In both cases, you are declaring that your journey has value. When you celebrate yourself, you reinforce your identity as someone who grows, who persists, who rises. You anchor your confidence not in comparison, but in acknowledgement. And that confidence carries forward. It prepares you to face new challenges with the assurance that you have succeeded before, even in small ways. So allow yourself to smile at your progress. Allow yourself to speak it aloud when the moment calls for it. Celebrate quietly, celebrate openly. In doing so, you validate your path, strengthen your spirit, and honor the becoming that is still unfolding within you. Failures are chapters, victories are milestones. Both belong to your story, but they do not carry the same weight. A chapter may hold conflict, uncertainty, and lessons wrapped in discomfort. A milestone stands as a marker on the road, reminding you how far you have traveled. Too often, we memorize our failures and merely glance at our victories. We replay our mistakes in vivid detail while allowing our triumphs to fade into the background. But if we are to grow fully, we must learn to mark both and to honor our wins with intention. Failure is not a verdict, it is instruction. It is a page that teaches, corrects, and refines. When something does not work, when we fall short or stumble, we are not being written out of the story, we are being developed within it. Every setback carries wisdom if we are willing to sit with it long enough to understand. It shows us where we misstepped, where we need patience, where we must grow stronger. In this way, failure deepens us, it humbles us, it shapes our character in ways comfort never could. But victories, no matter how small, deserve to be remembered. They are the markers that say, you endured, you learned, you rose. When you pass a milestone on a long journey, you do not ignore it. You acknowledge it as proof of progress. In the same way, when you overcome a fear, complete a goal, or improve in discipline, you must pause to honor that achievement. Not because the journey is over, but because the distance traveled matters. If you only dwell on your failures, you begin to believe they define you. You may start to see yourself as incapable or behind, but when you intentionally honor your victories, you shift the narrative. You remind yourself that growth is happening. You create balance in your perspective. Yes, there were missteps, but there were also moments of courage. Yes, there were delays, but there were also advances. Marking both chapters and milestones teaches wisdom. Honoring your wins builds confidence. When you celebrate what you have accomplished, you gather strength for the next chapter. You carry forward the evidence that you can overcome obstacles. Each milestone becomes a reminder that you are not stuck, you are progressing. Life will always include both. There will be chapters you wish had been easier and milestones you worked tirelessly to reach. Accept the lessons from the chapters, but do not let them overshadow the markers of success. Hold your victories with gratitude. Let them encourage you when new challenges arise. For in the end, your story is not defined by the pages where you struggled, but by the distance you traveled despite them. Honor your wins. They are proof that you are still moving forward, still growing, still becoming. Consistency compounds. It is not dramatic and it rarely draws attention in the beginning. It looks like ordinary effort repeated on ordinary days. It looks like choosing discipline when excitement has faded. It looks like showing up when no one is keeping score. Yet within that steady repetition lies extraordinary power. For every small action, when done again and again, begins to gather weight. It begins to multiply. It begins to build a force that can no longer be easily stopped. We often underestimate the value of daily commitment because the results are not immediate. One workout does not transform the body. One page does not complete the book. One act of courage does not erase all fear. But when those actions are repeated consistently, something shifts. Muscles strengthen, pages accumulate, confidence grows. What once felt small becomes substantial. What once felt difficult becomes natural. Consistency turns effort into identity. There is a quiet magic in refusing to skip the small steps. When you choose to practice your craft each day, even briefly, you are telling yourself that your dream matters. When you save a little, learn a little, improve a little, you are building momentum that stretches far beyond the present moment. Each small achievement adds to the last. They stack upon one another like bricks, forming a foundation sturdy enough to hold your aspirations. The beauty of consistency is that it does not demand perfection. It asks only for persistence. You may not perform flawlessly every day. Some days will feel stronger than others. But if you return, if you continue, if you remain committed to the process, progress becomes inevitable. The compound effect of steady effort creates results that seem sudden to the outside world, yet you know they were formed quietly over time. Consistency also builds trust within yourself. Each time you keep a promise to your own growth, you strengthen your self-belief. You begin to see yourself as reliable, capable, disciplined. That inner trust is powerful. It carries you through moments of doubt because you have evidence of your dedication. You have proof that you do not abandon your goals at the first sign of difficulty. Over time, daily small victories shape a trajectory. They guide your path in a clear direction. What may have begun as hesitant steps transforms into confident strides. Others may call it talent or luck, but you understand the truth. It was consistency. It was the decision to continue when quitting would have been easier. It was the humility to honor the small tasks that built the greater outcome. So do not dismiss today's effort because it feels minor. Do not overlook the power of repetition. Every disciplined choice, every completed task, every moment of growth contributes to something larger than you can see right now. Stay steady. Stay committed. For when consistency compounds, it carries you toward your goals with a strength that is both quiet and unstoppable. Self-love is celebrating you. It is not vanity, nor is it selfishness. It is the sacred recognition that you are worthy of honor simply because you exist and because you are trying. In a world that often measures value by comparison and competition, choosing to celebrate yourself becomes an act of courage. It is standing firmly in your own becoming and saying, I matter, my growth matters, my effort matters. For many, self-love feels unfamiliar. We have learned to critique ourselves more quickly than we compliment. We magnify our flaws and minimize our strengths. We speak to ourselves in tones we would never use with someone we cherish. But celebrating yourself requires a gentler voice. It asks you to see your progress with compassion. It invites you to acknowledge the battles you have fought quietly and the strength you have shown when no one else noticed. When you honor your small victories, you reinforce your worth. You remind yourself that you are not defined solely by your shortcomings. You are also defined by your resilience, your discipline, your courage to begin again. Each time you celebrate a step forward, no matter how small, you build a healthier relationship with yourself. You teach your heart that it does not have to earn love through perfection. It already deserves it through effort and intention. Self-love also unlocks potential. When you believe you are worthy, you dare to aim higher. When you treat yourself with respect, you make decisions that align with growth. You no longer sabotage your progress with harsh self-doubt. Instead, you encourage yourself forward. You become both the dreamer and the supporter of that dream, and that alignment creates powerful momentum. There is strength in looking at your journey and saying, I am proud of who I am becoming, not because you have arrived at some flawless destination, but because you are evolving. You are learning from mistakes instead of being crushed by them. You are showing up despite fear. You are choosing growth over comfort. These choices deserve recognition. They deserve celebration. When you celebrate yourself, you set a standard for how others should treat you. You communicate, without words, that your effort and progress are valuable. You radiate a quiet confidence that does not depend on external validation. And that confidence inspires others to embrace their own worth. Self-love is not a single grand gesture. It is found in daily acknowledgments. It is in the smile you allow yourself after completing a task. It is in the forgiveness you grant when you fall short. It is in the patience you practice as you grow. In celebrating yourself, you are not becoming arrogant, you are becoming whole. So honor your journey. Applaud your persistence. Speak kindly to the person you see in the mirror. For when you celebrate yourself, you strengthen your spirit and expand your capacity to rise even higher.